It's Kyle, Dan, and our man at the baseball winter meeting, Keegs. Winter meetings. They're not just one meeting. Keegs, this is your first time, I believe, talking to the Jays executive since the World Series. Are they aware the city, the country is still abuzz?
I wonder if I'll hear that today. Did you know the Blue Jays represent an entire country?
Yeah, that was said
I've
a
heard
lot.
that once or twice. I think the Blue Jays, they're very smart PR people. I think they plant that with some of the new guys that come in. If you are ever in doubt, if that idiot Keegan asks you about why your cutter sucks or something, just say that you represent a whole country. Everyone will be fine, man. But there's this sense of momentum, though, isn't there, guys? And it's not only because of how short the postseason was. Now, normally, selfishly, I get to sit on the couch for all of October, November kind of creaks by. And by the time the winter meetings roll around, I'm thinking, okay, get me down there. I'll see some of my friends who I work with. This is great. It feels like the season ended just yesterday. Then you get the Cease deal, the Ponce agreement. And the Blue Jays tomorrow are going to roll out Dylan Cease in front of everybody, guys. And it's really cool how it works here. Well, I'm sorry, cool was the wrong word, but interesting maybe. It's a massive ballroom with lines and lines and lines of tables that can sit 1,000 people. And at the very front of that room is a press conference stage. Now, normally that's used for announcements. This morning there was a charity thing. But I think that's where the Blue Jays are going to do the Dylan Cease press conference, right in front of everybody as kind of a look at what we did. There's a little bit of showing off involved. When Scott Boras is involved too, so of course there is. But it's kind of waving their flag, guys. There's momentum, and it feels like it hasn't slowed down whatsoever.
Reminds me of show and tell in grade 6 when you'd bring in your newest and coolest toy. It's just with adults. Yeah, look at this new thing we got. Okay, but speaking of with the offseason, it seems as though all reports indicate they're still chasing after more pitching help, which, of course, means Robert Suarez and Edwin Diaz. Have you heard any more about those two?
Yeah, the pitching needs to be a big priority here, guys. And a lot of this, I think, will still hinge on whether they go after Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker. Because, like we've talked about prior, this is not just Bichette versus Tucker. It's Bichette and probably an extra $100 million versus Tucker. So if the Blue Jays were to go down the Bichette path instead of Kyle Tucker, I think they'll have a little bit more available to them to go out to that relief market. And they need to, guys. They just plain need to. That is a remaining need right alongside one more big bat that they have to do. Everything else is a luxury or just for strategy. They need to upgrade the back end of their bullpen. Now, Yariel Rodriguez was a kind of surprise outright. He's off the 40-man roster. Jimmy Garcia, what's he going to give you? I don't really know next year. So you're looking at Jeff Hoffman and Louis Varland at the back end of that bullpen. It's an okay start. It's not good enough. And I think the Blue Jays understand now, and we all understand, that you're not comparing yourselves to the Orioles or the Rays. This is about comparing yourselves to the Dodgers and to the other top-end teams in baseball. The Blue Jays bullpen right now is not good enough. It's not bad. It's just not top 5. And you've got to be that when the big points of the season come around. So I would love to see them add at least competition for closer or a closer on top of Jeff Hoffman. They've got to be involved in that, but I do think some of that depends on what's left after Bichette or Tucker.
This is reminding more and more. This is reminding me of the 93 Jays, in which they just didn't put the same team that won their first World Series in 92. They made a lot of changes, and that's seemingly what the Jays are doing with the Yariel Rodriguez. What is the latest on the Kyle Tucker tour? Have you heard anything about that? Because he toured their spring training facility.
Yeah, the tour was interesting. Now, it's a good thing. I won't tell people to limit their excitement. He does just live in Tampa. So it's the same drive I make across to the ballpark every day in spring training. It's not going too far out of your way. This is not quite to the level of the Shohei Ohtani visit, for example, which was much more meaningful. But still, he went over. He took a look around. And guys, if you are a top-end big league player, visiting the Blue Jays complex is only going to make you like them more. Okay? This is not brand new now. It's a few years old, but it is one of, if not the best complexes in Major League Baseball still. And it's extremely player-focused. And what I know about Tucker from speaking to other writers who have covered him and speaking to people around the league is that he's a very meticulous guy with how he goes about his spring training work, his pregame work. He's a guy who likes to hit in the cages and go through a really regimented routine, whereas someone like Vladdy, for example, he wants to go out onto the field, dance, let it rip, hit a few home runs. Different guys, different things. So I think him visiting is very good news. We also know, and Brian Cashman said this last night, I believe, he has not visited the Yankees complex, which is actually in Tampa and closer. So a little bit of good news there if you're a Blue Jays fan that wants Kyle Tucker. I do think that this is going to carry out beyond the meetings, and he could still be meeting with more teams. But, hey, you know, it's a 30-minute drive, guys. That causeway gets a little clogged up sometimes. It's not nothing.
Keegan, there's no such thing as a 30-minute drive in Florida, but we respect the journalism nonetheless. But is there a scenario in which, and because your own words now and some of the stuff I'm reading and hearing, a lot of people think it's a one or the other scenario, but is there a world right now where they sign both Tucker and Bichette? Are you hearing anything like that?
There's a world. I don't think it's a likely world. I still don't think it's the world we'll end up living in. But I think, guys, that this is brings us to the part of the conversation with Rogers ownership, who has a ton of cash. And I don't think that's really understood in a lot of American markets or by a lot of American media. You know, I don't know what the largest cell phone carrier in the States is, if it's AT&T or whoever. Imagine AT&T owned the Yankees. You know, like Rogers has cash. We already knew that they have cash because it's a publicly traded company. We can access these things. But coming off of that World Series run and the amount of eyeballs on this team, the amount of viewers on Sportsnet, which is owned by Rogers, because isn't everything, I guess, it could only help. They were printing money for all of September and all of October. And all of those people who came to games and started caring about this team, and people who are shopping for Christmas presents right now are buying Vladdy jerseys, George Springer jerseys. They're buying ALCS hats. All of this money ends up eventually in one place, and that's with ownership. So I think that they have already been a high-spending team. Now more than ever, maybe ever in this team's history, they should be emboldened to spend big. And the other factor, guys, that I think is important here, if you're talking about Bichette and Tucker or Bichette and another large deal that you take on, is that the Blue Jays books financially are set up really well. Some teams, when you look 2 years down the road, you think, oh, man, we have this conversation in basketball maybe a bit more, or football. 2 years from now, oh, man, that's when the cap goes to hell. That's when everyone gets expensive at the same time. That's when we're going to have to make some trades. Blue Jays don't really have that. They have staggered and structured their big contracts pretty well. George Springer, Gosman comes off the books this year, Bieber and others, Varsho's another. So they're not going to logjam themselves. And I think that they are quietly really good at the money part of this, of kind of setting that up. It's not exciting. Nobody's going to put, financial balance on the back of a jersey. I get it. But that's why they can make these moves. And I think they can make multiple big ones.
Let's get back to the closer talk. And Jeff Hoffman, he's human. He has to see all the headlines about them looking for a new closer. And he's got to be thinking, well, I failed. I'm going to lose my job. He might come into camp as a man possessed because of that.
I think you will. From being around Jeff Hoffman, that's the read I get. I will not say that I know him deeply or have a very close relationship with him like any player who's only been here for 1 year. But I can picture a world very clearly where Jeff Hoffman has a 1.5 ERA midseason and tells me to go myself. I think he's a guy who could really feed off of that narrative and feed off what's being said about him. And I love that. If that's what works for you as Jeff Hoffman, hell yeah, lean into it. For some guys, that's kind of a false narrative. Oh, people are doubting me, blah, 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 when really they're not. Right now, yeah, it's happening with Jeff Hoffman. And that started at the year-end availabilities with Ross Atkins when he was asked about Hoffman being the closer. And he gave that kind of strange answer where it was, well, the great thing about Jeff is that no matter what happens, we know he's going to do his best.
Wait. I'm going to stop you. Ross Atkins, every answer is strange.
It is. It's relative. It's a sliding scale. But that was kind of the one answer in that press conference that made me say, oh, wait, hold up a minute. There's some information somewhere in the language there. So it began there. It's only continued with all of the Blue Jays' reported interest in Suarez and Edwin Diaz, other relievers. And if he gets bumped or even gets competition, I think he's a guy that will thrive on that. And that's good for Jeff Hoffman. And some relievers would get their backs up and crumble a bit. Jeff Hoffman is not that guy. He will have his middle finger up, and he will be ready to take on that competition. And I like that about him. It's part of his strength.
Keegan, give us a sense of what the chatter amongst other media members from other markets, or even management and personnel from other markets. How are they talking about the Blue Jays in the offseason, if you've gotten a sense of that?
Still a little bit of surprise, honestly. There's this because this is still day one of the winter meetings, and it's still kind of, hey, how you doing? Good to see you time. And the comment I keep getting is kind of surprised, like, wow, your team really made a run last year. And I think that people are quickly coming to realize, oh, crap, the Blue Jays are legitimate. And Blue Jays fans have known this for a while. It's always going to take a little bit longer for folks on the other side of the border who are not watching the Blue Jays all the time to realize that, and I get it. But I think the sentiment here is a sense of, wow, the Blue Jays were not just good, but it's the Dylan Cease signing that did this, guys. The Blue Jays didn't just make a lucky run where these guys we've never heard of, like Ernie Clement, were setting records. That wasn't just lucky. Boom, they just gave out what might be the second biggest contract in free agency this year, behind only Kyle Tucker, to Dylan Cease. Bo Bichette's might not even top $210 million. And they did it in front of the entire market. Now, if the Blue Jays had waited and waited and waited and let the market fall apart and gotten Dylan Cease for 5 years, 140 some whatever, then teams would have said, okay, they played this normally. No, the Blue Jays acted like the big dogs in this market. They went out and said, screw the other 29 teams. We want him. Here's a 7th year. Here's $30 million a year. That sends a message to the rest of baseball, and it perks everyone up to finally come along to the realization, late, but finally, that the Blue Jays are in this to be sustainable, that this is not just a one-off. This is not 2016, guys, where it was an old team that was clearly about to go off a cliff. This is a team that should be competing for a World Series next year.
And it must change how Atkins and Shapiro are walking around these meetings. They go from people calling for their heads. That includes me. I was calling them the Property Brothers because all they did was renovations. But they must be walking around the executives with a lot less stress, a lot less anxiety, and a lot more eyeballs on them saying, holy crap, their plan worked.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Ross Atkins here in a couple hours. I'm sure he'll have like the Gucci shades on or something.
Yeah, they got a glow up.
Yeah, but it matters, guys. They will tell us that it does not, but there's a human level to this. I cannot imagine how that feels. And I'm not trying to be overly empathetic because they get paid well. It's part of the gig, okay? But I can't imagine how it feels if every time I wrote a bad story, 10,000 people are saying, man, this guy sucks. He should get fired. I would not deal with that well. And no matter how much Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro try to hide from that and insulate themselves from it and their experience, you still hear it, okay? Your friends, your kids' friends, your neighbors, you're going to hear it. So to be able to feel and hear some appreciation and some commendation for a job very well done has to feel good. I don't think anyone will admit it out loud because that's getting ahead of yourselves, blah, blah, blah. But it's got to feel good, man. And to see their vision actually work out, because this worked out in the way that Ross Atkins had planned. It took long, maybe a little too long, and it had some painful side steps along the way, like 2024. But this was the vision they were preaching the entire time, and it worked out. So both of them, if they so choose, can be here for many more years. Neither of them want to talk about their contract situations. I don't really get it. The same went for John Schneider throughout the year, which I understand a bit more, but wouldn't surprise me, guys, honestly, if those contracts are already signed and we just don't know about them. The Blue Jays really like to be secretive with executive contracts, so they're going to be around, man, and they have earned and they deserve the praise they're getting.
I would just love to see them walk in and tell other GMs, I'm sitting there. That's my seat.
Rock,
get out of here. Just be bullies.
Why not? Okay, so from current Blue Jays to former Blue Jays, over the weekend, the Contemporary Era Committee, they elected Jeff Kent to the Hall of Fame in just once just slightly denied Carlos Delgado. Any thoughts there?
I actually think the Delgado vote's a good thing, guys. I think this is encouraging. Now, I didn't expect this to be only Jeff Kent. I'm always a bit surprised by these selections. I'm a couple years away from having a Hall of Fame vote, and I frankly don't know if I want it or will take it. We'll see. But the Hall of Fame case for Delgado continues to fascinate me because Delgado was my player growing up. He was my guy, and I've always tracked this. I think that getting 9 votes, which is just short of the 12 he would have needed from 16 people, is encouraging. Because in 2015, when Delgado was on the ballot for all of the writers with all of their genius and glory to vote on, he received only 3.8% of votes. And if you get less than 5%, you're off the ballot. He lasted 1 freaking year on the Hall of Fame ballot, which is criminal, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. It was a bit of a loaded ballot. There were some Hall of Famers on it, but I think it's foolish. Now Delgado, by getting 9, just short of those 12 votes, I think this conversation keeps going, guys. And Delgado's always been a guy who was going to benefit from this conversation going. His numbers are incredible. He did it through a steroid era with 0 ties to performance-enhancing drugs, which I think is important. And I believe the way this works is that this same committee for this era of baseball will come back in 3 years, in 2028. I hope that over these next 3 years, Delgado can gain a vote a year and get there. But what he's done right now with getting 9 votes, he's made this a conversation. And I think not just in Toronto with us, but in New York and in LA and on national networks, you're going to hear more Delgado debates. And that's a good thing because I think the more we talk about him, all he will do is benefit. I think he's right on that line, guys. He's one of the most interesting cases out there.
The greatest swing. One of the greatest swings in the history of baseball. Keegs, I wish you were around to cover Jeff Kent because everyone says he was a complete ass.
I love all the stories that come out at the end, and and I love all of the effort of former Blue Jay. Okay, for like a week. The David Cone trade was great, part of the World Series run, but isn't that a very Toronto thing, guys? Where like somebody could play 1 game for the Blue Jays or the Raptors or someone, and they are claimed like forever. And it's when fans do it, cool. But like when organizations do it, sometimes I'm like, okay, like he doesn't really know you guys like that. But it was, hey, 22-year-old Jeff Kent for those few weeks was a heck of a Blue Jay.
Yeah.
And also, another factor for Delgado's case, he never once got in a fist fight with Barry Bonds. Can you imagine the chemical cocktail of Bonds and Kent on the same team for as long as they were together? That must have been something.
I loved his quotes where you had to read between the lines. He was like, well, we made each other better. Sometimes we were friends. Sometimes we butted heads. It's like, okay, so you mean all the time you butted heads? Yeah. But it's, man, oh man. Yeah, Delgado's got a lot going in his favor. One of them being his lack of enemies, I guess.
Would have been great, him and Shea Hillenbrand on the same Jays team.
This ship is sinking.
I did enter his house once, and he had animals. This is Shea Hillenbrand, had animals in his house. He had horses just wandering inside. Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, did you watch the Bills game?
Man, I caught the end of it when I was here. Can the Bills and Bengals just play every week?
Yes.
Like, defense is turned off. I mean, the ultimate Josh Allen game where it's just going to be more than any player in the NFL, he can will a team to win. And it's not often enough, and it's not at all sustainable. Jesus, no. But when it happens, like that big run he broke off the left side for the touchdown, unreal. The interception on Burrow at the end, which, yeah, I mean, what the hell was Burrow doing? I don't really know. That was one of the most entertaining games of the year, Almost as entertaining as the Packers picking off the Bears at the end to make Caleb Williams look like who he is, which is a bad quarterback. But, man, that Bills-Bengals game, give that to me every week, man. Set the over-under at 68.5. I'll probably sprinkle that over anyways. That was a hell of a game.
Kyle, who are our favorites on Bet Rivers? Who's the favorite right now? Still the Rams?
I would imagine so after yesterday. Let me pull that up. I was just going to point to Keegan and say, too, hey, your Packers, they're once again in first place. You've been waiting a while for that, right?
All is right again. I think Jordan Love is creeping on some books into like the kind of top 5 range for MVP stuff. He's not going to win it, but he's slowly crept up now that they're throwing the ball and not going run, pass over and over and over.
It's amazing how a single day in the NFL changes these odds. The Rams are plus 400. Number 2 are the Green Bay Packers at plus 800 on Bet Rivers, tied with Seattle at plus 800. And number 4, the Buffalo Bills at plus 850. And I'm guessing that Bills line is more about the route to the Super Bowl through the AFC than them actually being the clearly defined best team.
You got to play the narratives, guys. I still remember at one point when, there were multiple iterations of Aaron Rodgers saying some wild things during the pandemic. But on one of the worst news cycles for him, I think I used that day to make an MVP bet on him, I believe. I was like, you know what? Everyone hates this guy right now. I'd better sprinkle this. So, man, there's some good narratives out there. But the Packers look like a real team right now. The Bears actually look really damn good, which pained me. I think they're going to be a pain in that division. And that division itself is just overwhelming. But, man, oh, man, I still don't know who my favorite is for this Super Bowl. I can't even bet on the Andy Reid Miracle Chiefs coming back anymore. I love Houston, though. Watching that Houston defense, get them into a 10-7 game with someone in the snow, maybe.
I'm just kind of happy that we most likely won't see the Chiefs, because the Chiefs, they have to win out to make it in, or they still have a shot mathematically.
Plus 5,000.
Yeah. So we would have had to have endured shots of Taylor Swift in the crowd while Bad Bunny performed. People's heads would have exploded.
And I would have had to sit through Patrick Mahomes in an interview saying, nobody thought we could do this. That's saying,
oh, God.
No, don't jinx it. Now it might happen.
Yeah. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. No,
what about the Jaguars? They look pretty good, too.
They look okay. I never want to believe in them, because something about Liam Cohen just bugs me. And sometimes it's not any deeper than that. But Trevor Lawrence is always going to be just good enough. Good enough to get contracts, probably not good enough to win you a Super Bowl. But, man, I love that Jacoby Myers edition. It was not sexy. It was not super exciting. But I think it really, really works for them. And if Brian Thomas can kind of figure it out, man, it's wide open. Those are the types of teams that can make a surprise run to championship weekend, for example, this year. By the time you get there, cream will rise to the top. It'll probably end up being the Rams and one of these other powerhouse teams. But you're going to get someone strange sneaking into that championship weekend with them. The Jags are, man, against all odds. Every week I think that it's going to fall apart for them, and ETN's going to fall apart. I've had some futures on Tootin that don't look good, but, man, they're okay. They look alive, and I love that Myers deal.
We now have the letter E entering the standings as teams are getting officially eliminated. We now have the Jets, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Giants, Falcons, Saints, and Cardinals. And next week, there will be more joining them. Oh, and Commanders are officially eliminated as well.
At least they brought back Jaden Daniels to rearrange his elbow one more time.
How could no one figure it out for football in New York?
Ever. And I know the Jets are so loaded with draft picks now, especially in that 2027 class, which is going to be amazing. Maybe they get their quarterback there, but nothing matters if you don't have a quarterback. And some of these teams get out ahead of having a quarterback, I look at the Titans and Cam Ward. I love Cam Ward, but everything else on that roster sucks. Yeah. But man, the Jets, I don't know what you do. You're not going to win the NFL in 2025 running the ball as much as an Army-Navy game or something. Come on. And God, rebuild after rebuild, man. I don't know how you can stay a fan of that. I admire people who do. I would not be strong enough.
The Jets need Joe Burrow somehow, because he's the best fur coat wearing Joe to play in the NFL since Joe Namath.
He's got some sort of style. I don't know what it is. No. He's got something.
Well, Keegs, we appreciate this. Keep us updated. I guess it's not like the NHL draft where they say we have a trade to announce. You kind of just have to listen for the rumblings.
Yeah, everyone just looks at Twitter together in a room. No one wants to tell you that.
Just have it on the big screen.
You should. Nobody wants to tell you that at the winter meetings, because everyone wants to make it look like they're working the lobby, and they have everyone sits in a room and drinks coffee and scrolls Twitter and updates Twitter. And eventually one of you or the guy next to you will say, "Hey, Keegs, did you see that?" And I'll say, "Oh, okay, well, better do some work now." It's a glamorous life here. But yeah, this is not the winter meetings of 80 years ago where you're talking to people in back rooms and hoping that you don't get beat in the next morning's newspaper. It's sitting on Twitter, baby.
The winter meetings. We just watched Twitter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gigs.
You got it, fellas.